Good morning. My name is Nicole, and I am a ReClaimer. I went through the 6-week ReClaim Global Healing Program that helps victims heal from their childhood sexual abuse. Believe me when I say that victims of sexual abuse know what it's like to carry that secret around inside of us. And though others may think that we're normal, trust me, the pain is buried deep inside. After I went through the ReClaim Global Program of Healing, I was incredibly changed. My self-esteem elevated, my authentic me emerged, and truly, there is nothing like it, the freedom that I experienced. I want to thank you all for coming out in the rain and in the cold. This is a great day. Again, I say this is a great day. This is a day in which good people have come together to support one another. I believe that I know Dr. Kaye well enough to say a lot of you will be shocked by what she has to say. She will talk about the abuse that has gone on in your community. So brace yourself. Again, I say, brace yourself. Dr. Kaye can be very direct at times, but this is why many people love her so much. She is a testament of goodness in our world. I have experienced her love firsthand, her compassion, and her dedication. Like a cold case detective, she goes into the forgotten, lost areas of the soul and retrieves the beauty that lies within them. For all of us who know her, she has been a safe place to fall. She has been a safe place to fall. She knows the pain that sexual abuse victims face intimately, and her voice screams the loudest: no more silent crimes, no more silent children. She carries the weight of each victim in her heart and is determined to see that each one gets healed. I've seen her hold victims, cry with victims, and even shake victims to wake them up to realize that they are innocent and that their childhood sexual abuse was not their fault. To many, she is known as Mama Kaye. And to others who have seen her maternal instinct fly throughout the world, she is known as the Mother of America. After she speaks today, she will have another speaker come forward. And after that, a brief time for questions. Listen to her. Listen to her. Please, listen to every word. We have not come here to criticize, but to help this community, just like we have helped so many others. Now, may I take this opportunity to introduce this phenomenal, extraordinary, beautiful, awesome, selfless woman. Please join with me in welcoming the founder of ReClaim Global, Dr. Kaye Smith.
Wow, you all look good wet. I want to thank you for coming today. I'm especially thankful to this community who has come to hear what ReClaim Global has to say. We come in peace. We come with information. We come with encouragement. We come on behalf of the children. I want to thank the ReClaimers who stand with me in this community and declare no more silent crimes or silent children. Let me say that we at ReClaim Global are a national sex abuse advocacy group. We have helped expose over 400 perpetrators. We have helped victims prosecute in 11 states. ReClaim is now represented in 18 states and in 3 countries. We have a voice, and this is our beginning. Our goal is to encourage the world to not tolerate sexual abuse. We will declare no more silent crimes, silent children. We're here on behalf of the children and to make you aware of what has happened to you, good people, in this community, what has happened to your children. We want to get the good people to join with us who think that sexual abuse is atrocious, that sexual abuse should never, ever be tolerated under any circumstances. We want to encourage you to stand up and speak out against the sexual abuse that has happened in your community. Our mission is simple. We want to get the pedophiles, the child molesters locked up. We teach families not to keep their dirty little secrets.
That's right.
We help people take the shame off of themselves and put it on the pedophile, the perverted people.
Yes.
A child never owns shame because of sexual abuse. Since the announcement of us coming here today, we heard from many good people in this community, many good people in Hampton County, great people, in fact, who wrote to us and emailed us and called us and asked us for help. Leaders in this community, I want to tell you this, your people are crying out for help. Unfortunately, this county is not unique. Sexual abuse can happen anywhere, in my city, in your city, in my state, in your state, and it can happen all over the world. ReClaim wants to be a voice to help stop sexual abuse in every city, in your city, in my city, in your state, and in my state. In its simplest forms, what does no more silent crimes, silent children mean? It means this: perverts, keep your nasty hands off of our children. We have had enough. We have had enough. Take your hands off of our children. Now, please allow me to put some parenthetical brackets about what I'm about to say today. Although I'm not a lawyer, I do know some of the law. I know what alleged means. And I know that a person is innocent until proven guilty. And I know that even rides over the people who are guilty, even though we know they are guilty. But I have constitutional rights too. I have constitutional rights that says I can hold a public assembly in a peaceful fashion and speak my mind towards these issues. And I intend to do that today. I know the truth when I hear it, especially when it comes to the details involving so many victims of sexual abuse. I've worked with over 1,000 cases. I believe what I've heard about these students in this city is true. There have been many victims of sexual abuse that happened at Estelle Middle School. We are here because of what happened to these children. What happened to these children by a school resource officer, by a deputy sheriff, and by a pastor. We are here to speak what we think, and we think he is guilty. I understand he was dismissed from the sheriff's office. Well, if that's true, I would like to see you remove his name from your roster of employees. We are here because of the children that Larry Heyward sexually violated. We are here because of the children that this man used his brute force on, the ones he tortured, the innocent ones he bullied, the ones he threatened and violently raped over and over and over again for 2 years at Estelle Middle School. That is not right. I ask you to tell yourself, these students, and these families the truth. Unfortunately, in this incident, some adults will have to take their responsibility for what happened. It's okay to apologize to these children, that you're sorry that the safety nets at this school failed them, and failed them tremendously. When a parent entrusts a child at a school, they should be protected from pedophiles. And they sure in the heck should be protected. For 2 years? That should have never happened. It is our suggestion that you gather the children, perhaps have an assembly with them, and tell everyone on behalf of these children, you will demand justice. Then you must take it upon yourself to ensure that these safety nets get mended so this never ever happens again. I'm asking mothers, fathers, and leaders in this community, the good ones, to stand up and fight for these children. Now I want to address the congregants of Varnville Miracle Delivery Center. I probably don't have that right, but I want to address the congregants. I am deeply sorry that your pastor has the blood on his hands of innocent children. But even with that, I give you encouragement to do what's right. And that simply means you can forgive him, but forgiveness never is bigger than your responsibility to make sure he doesn't get to any more students. So what am I saying? It is the responsibility of everyone in this community to find out from their children if Larry Heyward touched them. I believe the victims that he found at this middle school go far beyond what we're hearing. You do not get this sophisticated of a socially competent child molester and it just started 2 years ago. This man has high manipulation skills. He can win the charms of others in his destination to find children he can abuse. Help me help you do something about the information I'm about to give you today. Sexual abuse in your community, in my community, on the red, white, and blue soil of America is rampant. It's pandemic. It's epidemic. We, the parents, we, the community, have to stand up against this. We have to do it, and here's why. Look at the cases on any sheriff's desk. Look at the cases in any DA's office. Look at the cases at the Department of Family and Children's Services. They are piled high with sexual abuse cases, and they can't get to them all, so we, the community, have to stand up and protect these children. I will offer this. When you form committees in your community to put things in action to protect these children from this sexual abuser and to help your community never go through this again, after you get that plan together, call me or email me and I'll do what I can to help you execute that plan. Do you realize that a child molester gets to an average of 200 children in his lifetime? That is a modest figure. Most people say they get as high as 400 people in their lifetime. I had a reclaimer one time at one of our meetings yell out. She cried out. She screamed out. Just why in the hell didn't those 199 victims before me speak up so I wouldn't have been raped by this man? A speech I gave recently included the comments about a 60-year-old man who was married to this woman, and they discovered in that family he had molested 30 children. The aunt stood up and said, I knew we should have stopped him at the first two. But they believed him when they caught him with the first two, and he went on to molest 28 more children. They believed when he said he would stop. Child molesters do not stop. They are constantly looking. They're constantly looking for a child to abuse. I tell parents, mothers especially, if you are living with a man who has sexually abused your children, here's what you do. You take him away from him, and it's better that you live out under a bridge and eat out of a garbage can than to inflict their souls with the pain of sexual abuse. Look around here at these people wearing red today. They are all reclaimers. Every one of these and 3 times this many I've helped with their sexual abuse. None of these men had any help for their sexual abuse. No one spoke up for them. And that's why we stand here today to speak up for children. This community needs a hero. It needs a bunch of heroes. As a counselor, I want to assure you that I do not expose counselor private information. But as a mandated reporter of sexual abuse, I have come forward and told people about this abuse that I've heard about. And I'm going to step over the line for one reason today. I do not believe this community is safe with Larry Heyward running around in it. So I must tell you to be on alert, to be aware of what this man is capable of doing.
That's right.
We need to pray for the victims, pray that they will heal. ReClaim Global's mission is to make you aware of what has happened here. I stand before you in all humility. I have no personal vendettas here. I am not throwing stones towards good people, and I certainly don't mean to imply that your city is worse than mine. What I will imply, however, is someone should have been watching these students at Estelle Middle School. How is it possible that sexual abuse can go on for 2 years? How is it possible that a pervert can lock these children behind a door and rape them and sodomize them and do all kinds of insane, perverted things to them? I'm going to ask you, will you as this community stand up and demand that justice be done? Here are my questions for you to consider to others in this community. I will first begin about SL School, the administration, the faculty, and Board of Education. These are hard questions, but questions that I believe this community has a right to have answered. Why wasn't somebody at SL Middle School and the high school watching out over these children?
That's right.
You must take the position that you did, that these parents did, entrust their children into this school's care.
That's right.
You know, sexual abuse of any kind is hard for me to swallow, but I would not be here if this happened one time or 2 times to one victim. I am here because it happened to multiple victims, and this school should have been watching out over them. Unfortunately, I have to bring something else to your awareness. I have great experience in the thousands of cases that I've worked with to know how the mind of a predator works. I have to tell you this. You need to hunt deep and wide in this school as to who gave this man so much autonomy and so much influence over these students without any accountability. Is there someone else in this school that was assisting him? I believe when we get finished with this case, and I don't say this lightly, I believe when we get finished with this school and this community, the victims of Larry Heyward will rival Jerry Sandusky at Penn State. Why didn't someone question why this man locked these students in the resource office with him several times a week for over 2 years? In there, brace yourself, he had sexual orgies. He had students to bring him pornography, and he forced them to watch it with him as he nastily spoke about his vile language. These weren't brief meetings. These lasted a long time. Why didn't someone from the school knock on the door and take a peek into this office when students were locked up in there? They would have discovered a den of perversion. We certainly ask our teachers to turn in grade for students. Where's the grade for the work that Larry Heyward did at this school? And here's some tougher questions for you to ponder. I want you to find an answer to these. This one. This past Monday, on President's Day, we sent 4 reclaimers up to the city to hand out flyers about this press conference. They stopped by Estelle Middle School and handed in 4 invitations for people to come to this press conference. I gave them until Thursday. There were workers on Washington's Day. There were 4 envelopes hand-addressed, personally addressed to 4 leaders in that school. I gave them the invitation. I told them it would be favorable for them if they came out and expressed their concern also for what had happened at their school. Apparently, they have declined. But even on Friday, we called. We called back to just make sure that they didn't have something they wanted to say. The principal was out getting the students on the bus. So Faith asked for the guidance counselor who was supposed to get one of our packets. The guidance counselor said, I have heard about the press conference, but I didn't get any letter. I want to know who intercepted our letter to these people in that school. That is not right. She said, I never got your letter. And when a letter is put in a receptionist's hands with that person's name on it, they have the right to get their mail. We need to figure out why. Does somebody have something to hide in this school that they don't want out? I don't know, but this community needs to find out why. Why did the administration of this school allow Larry Heyward to have so much influence and autonomy? How is it that this man had the power to flunk a child in a grade when the teachers and when the guidance counselors, and my eyes have looked at this letter, when the teachers and when the guidance counselors said, we believe he should be passed, but it was overridden by somebody in that school. They overrode the guidance counselor and they overrode the recommendation from the teachers, and they held that child back. And don't give me the crap that he was held back because of year-end test grades. Any child that's being abused is going to fail those grades. But that's not why you hold the child back. You surely can go on the recommendations of the teachers. They felt he could do the next level. But somebody in that school said, no, we're going to hold him back. Was it because Larry Heyward wanted to keep his sexual clutches into this victim? This mother was frantic over her child, and she went to the school many times. But the school reassured her over and over, trust us with your child. We know what we're doing. And Larry Heyward knows what they're doing. Now, I don't know how it is in this county, but in my county or in every other school in America that I know of, when a student brings a weapon to school, the school immediately goes into action. One of these victims brought a weapon to school. In his mind, he was likely thinking, maybe I can stop this man from molesting me. Victims of sexual abuse do use their imagination that way. But this child was caught with that weapon in a classroom. And instead of them sending him to juvenile detention, instead of them having him arrested, they turned him back over to Larry Heyward. You know that I've heard many, many students say that this man was a pervert. Why doesn't the school know that? Where were the teachers questioning this man when he called for this student week after week, week after week, week after week, year after year? Shouldn't someone have found that suspicious? What kind of awful trap have we set for our children? Don't think it's easy for any child to have endured torture like this. It's not easy for them to get out of it. Heyward terrified them and threatened them continually. He also walked through the halls of this school promoting his vulgarity. Here's an example. Heyward took the hand of one student and placed it in the hand of one of his victims. He asked the student, do you want a piece of his ass? Indicating that he could arrange it. We cannot have somebody walking through the halls approaching students like that. Why didn't this school really know how to report sexual abuse when they got a report of it from one of the victims? I am really mad about this. This child was humiliated when he decided to be brave and come forward and present recorded evidence to the administration in this school. Instead of that person doing what was right, that person listened to it. Then they called in another person to listen to it. Then they called in another person to listen to it. And then they called in another person to listen to it. And each time that student sat there being humiliated by this administration and by these teachers. That's not right. Let me tell you what they should have said. What they should have said is, honey, I got this. Thank you for being brave and bringing it to me. Thank you. I will take care of this. This is for adults to handle. I want you to be safe, and I'm going to assure that you are safe. And then that administrator should have called that parent and escorted that child out of that school to safety. We need to learn how to handle sexual abuse. My next set of questions are addressed to the legal authorities. I want you, this community, to ask them this. Let me say this. I know there are good people in the sheriff's office and in SLED. My call is to those good people to stand up and become a hero and help this community mend. But I got to ask you this tough question. Why is this man on the streets? This one victim implicated a lot more charges than Larry Heyward was charged with. But it looks like to me an investigation wasn't made broad enough or wide enough. Why didn't they go through this investigation? Why didn't they take the time to do it? Why was this man allowed out of jail on such a small bond? His charges was nowhere from minimal. I've talked to many good people in this community. As I said, they called me. They asked for help. They asked us to visit. Why do people tell me this may be a good old boy network? Why was Larry Heyward allowed to work on so many sexual abuse cases? This is one of the things that was brought to my attention. This man is involved in everybody else's sexual abuse cases. I have good reason to believe this is how he found some of his victims. Let me tell you, this man did not need to be going through sexual abuse cases. He was looking for predators. Why do some people complain to me that their cases are not being handled right? What is hidden here? Was it Heyward manipulating these sexual abuse cases and nobody was checking on him? I talked to one officer. I told him where I thought forensic evidence would be, and his answer to me was, oh, Larry Heyward probably already got rid of all of that. I was incredulous by that statement, thinking, why do you think he's gotten rid of it? Why don't you go investigate on your own and find out? Regardless, I told them of 2, possibly 3 places where DNA evidence could be. Why do these legal officials feel that I might affect their case? I'm here to give them information. I'm here to let them handle their own cases. But I have reason to believe that Heyward manipulated so many students and that he should have been arrested and locked out of this community that I have no choice but for the protection of these other victims to stand up and speak out against him. Look, it's not just me saying this, it's many others in your community. I told my colleagues this. This town, if they see this man jaywalking, if they see this man spit on the sidewalk, whatever it takes to get this man locked up, you need to do it. This city is not safe. He is a threat to the victims and his family. I know he made personal calls to these families, even on the day one of them reported him. And he's been by the family's place of employment. That takes great nerve. I have done a psychological profile on this narcissistic sociopath. He is a dangerous man. Even though he comes with a wide smile and a sweet talk, he is a dangerous man, and he is a dangerous man in this community. We need to see a hero, a deputy who has enough spunk in him, who says, I won't sleep until we find justice here. I can tell you this, and your community needs to know this. There are other investigators coming into this community to do a job. I have to ask, why do private investigators have to come in to do the job that these legal authorities should have done? Now, I want to encourage you, do your work peacefully. Don't throw stones, don't throw rocks, and don't throw tomatoes. Do your work peacefully. I have worked with sexual crime units. I have worked with cases involving the FBI. I have worked with a lot of sexual abuse victims in my lifetime. And like I said, the difference between I know the difference between a truth and a lie. I believe these victims. I have given legal authorities the names of 7 to 8 victims that this man has gotten to at the school. That's incredible. Now I want to talk to you about Larry Heyward. He abused many students. Like I said, a socially competent sexual abuser does not become this sophisticated overnight. I have knowledge of the 7 to 8 victims, and they are both male and female. He raped children every week in the school and at other locations. He overpowered these children with threats, physical abuse, and psychological psychological torment and trauma. He tased them. He tased them numerous times, over and over again, on their backs, on their buttocks, and in their genital area. He created love nests for multiple victims. He had one in the middle school, and I have reason to believe that that student belongs to another love nest. Once he conquered and gained control of one student, he slowly introduced another one into his love nest. One time, one of the victims was in the room with Heyward when another student walked in. These poor, helpless students looked at each other, and they knew what they would have to do in front of this filthy man. He rated them by his love for them and their bodies. He's a very sick, twisted man. I need to ask, why hasn't this man's electronic devices been subpoenaed? Is somebody checking evidence? Is somebody checking the evidence for videotaping? The way these students described to me that he would line them up like a train and sodomize them gives me, from my experience, it's highly likely somebody needs to look for videotaping. Somebody needs to dig into this and see how far and how wide this man has taken pictures of these students. Not one victim told me, I'm going to set the record straight here, that they had knowledge of being videotaped. I bring that to the table because of my experience, because of the way they described to me he was molesting them. And when a molester lines them up like that, you better believe, more often than not, there's a camera taking pictures somewhere. At times he got so out of control before a student can get to his office that he became like a mad beast in his raping them. He made them bleed many times. Now, what do you do with this information? I want you to demand for a full investigation. Demand someone work with you in the school and find out exactly where the bottom is to this pit. Ask the neighbors, ask everyone. Look at his files, look to see who he was involved with. That trail will likely lead to more victims. Bring in the professionals to know how to handle something this large. Unfortunately, you have to do it like Columbine. Children have walked away with this, but their souls have been murdered. We need some real heavyweights to come in. You need to create a team of people who can get to the bottom of it. You need to demand that the law enforcement cooperate with this. Why did I take this case? Because this family was hurting. Because the blogging that was done after the article in the newspaper when they found out this man was arrested was hostile toward this family and hostile toward this victim. I took this case because I wanted to help some hurting people. When I took it, I agreed only to do something called an initial trauma assessment. I wanted to see what kind of abuse these victims had suffered so that I could recommend to them the counseling, the medical attention, and the psychiatric evaluations they would need. Unfortunately, when I stepped into this, I had no idea I would go walk on a 2-year nightmare of some of the worst things I've ever heard. Needless to say, when I was interviewing these victims, I was shocked. For your information, did these students try to fight him? You better believe they did. But he was a police officer. He used brute force to pin them down. One victim tried to get away by escaping to his bathroom. He picked the lock and went in there and demanded he come out and do what he wanted. These victims were controlled by him, almost like they were hypnotized. They were fearful of his threats that he would do to them and possibly to their families if they told. What makes a victim surrender like this? They were groomed, controlled, and manipulated by a very demented mind, one who gets the victims to surrender to their will and mind and emotions to him. Like I said, it's almost like hypnotism. You have a right to know what this man did to children in this community. I will have a videotape of this press conference on a website soon. You can order a copy of it. I don't want you to be brainwashed by anyone. Heyward is one of the worst child molesters I've heard of, outside of the psychopaths who rape and murder children. The behavior and personality characteristics of molesters like Heyward match those of Jerry Sandusky, in my professional opinion. They walk in their own self-induced delusional thinking. Many sociopaths actually feed off of the confidence and flattery that they get from others who seem to respect them as public authorities. My biggest concern when you confront molesters like this and they find that they're going to be caught, they might take retaliation against the other victims. We need to keep this city safe from this man. I was torn between saying something and saying nothing. I will conclude with this. Heyward is a sick, mentally disturbed, deeply dark, perverted, and violent man, one who has sexually enjoyed many students at Estelle. He needs to be locked up. Here's what you need to do. Here are some points. You need to ask tough questions to the school and to the police department. You need to hold a town meeting in a city hall. You demand that Heyward gets locked up. You need to get professional help to help these students, his victims. Interview the students at the school who have their own story to tell you about Heyward. Give people permission to speak up. Create committees made of interested party. Work with the sheriff. Work with the school administration. But demand that Heyward be investigated everywhere. And above all, pray for peace. Walk in it as you pursue your mission. Now, I want to say this. I have somebody that has joined me today. I want to say that, I'm just going to say it. This family came to me because they were hurting, because they didn't feel they had anyone in their community to go to. I helped this victim, and I told them they also need an attorney. I gave them the recommendation of several attorneys, or they had the recommendation of several attorneys. I allowed them to pick out who they were used. I have to tell you today, I'm very happy by the firm that they selected. And I want to tell you this. I don't know where this case would go. The jury has to decide that. But there's not enough money in this world to compensate this family or these victims for what they've been through. I'm going to introduce you to the man that is representing these families. I'm convinced he will do everything in his power to ensure the whole truth and nothing but the truth comes out. He will ask for justice to be served. This man is from Strawman Associates out of Columbia, South Carolina. It is a 5-star law firm. I am pleased to meet them, pleased to know them, and I have confidence in them. ReClaimers, friends, will you join me in welcoming Pete Strom to the microphone?
Wow, Dr. Kaye, that was powerful. That was really powerful. I'm not going to keep you guys out here in the rain long. I'm from Columbia. A little bit about my background. I was a state prosecutor, just like Duffy Stone in the solicitor's office in Columbia for a number of years. Later, I was the United States Attorney for South Carolina during the first Clinton administration, and have had vast experience in prosecuting these type of perpetrators. And what I need to ask everyone today is, if you know somebody who is a victim of this crime, get them to come forward. Many Many parents think, well, I don't want my child to come forward because it's going to be embarrassing. Let me tell you, I've been doing this for 30 years. If you don't bring your child forward and let them get the counseling that they need, they will be affected for the rest of their life. And there are people out here, the folks in red, who know that's the truth. It is a mistake. It is a mistake to hide it, to bury it. And what signal does that send to your child? So we're going to see that this justice system plays out the way it should. We want this gentleman to have a fair trial, and when he's convicted, we want to see him to get a maximum sentence. And then we're going to go after the pocketbooks. We're going to get money for these victims. Because that's where it hurts, is when you go after the money. All these people, who aren't in trouble, that's okay. But when you start getting into their pocketbook, that's where it makes a difference. And just in closing, please keep your eyes open. I could stand up here and tell you horror story after horror story about stepfathers and preachers and scoutmasters, parents' friends who've done horrible things. The internet, the smut is out there everywhere. The perversion is coming forward, and we've got to protect our children. We have got to protect our children. And I was thinking on the way down here, everybody saw in the news last week about that mother and child on the airplane, and the child started crying, and that stranger slapped that child. And I put something on Facebook. I said, I thought I had calmed down in my old age, but they would have had to take that guy to the hospital. And if we're that angry about somebody slapping a child, how angry should we be over the conduct we've heard today? Thank you again, Dr. Kaye, for coming up here and bringing attention to this. Thank all the people in red for coming out. And let's keep going. This is only the first chapter in a very long story. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, just for a brief second, I will take any questions. And if not, we're freezing, we can leave. Anybody have any questions? Well, that's very good. Yes. Thank you so much. It's our pleasure to be here. Thank you so much. Good day. Bye-bye.